Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Laura Brewer. Attorney General Stein is going to begin speaking in just a moment. After he's done speaking, you'll be able to ask questions by using the raise hand function. Thanks so much.
Good afternoon. I'm Attorney General Josh Stein, and it's my pleasure to announce and make an important announcement today. The state of North Carolina and 47 other states and territories across the United States filed a lawsuit against Facebook for violating American antitrust laws. So much of our lives exist on the internet. That was true before the pandemic, but since COVID-19, we all spend more time than ever on social networking sites. It has almost become a lifeline for our connections to family members, friends, neighbors who we no longer can be with in person. Facebook is the social networking website. It is the one place where we can go to make those really critical connections. Half of all people in the United States above the age of 13 go on to Facebook every single day. Facebook is a monopoly. They dominate the social networking site, website, marketplace, and they use their market power to the detriment of North Carolinians, of you and me. Consumers have suffered from a lack of choice and a lack of competition. There's been degraded services, worsened privacy protections, increase in the number of fake accounts, too many ads filling our information feeds. And we have all suffered through the lost opportunity of technological innovators who have not been able to blossom and thrive in our economy. Facebook has maintained its monopoly power through a series of illegal conduct. It's used what we call a buy or bury strategy with potential competitors. It has bought out companies that they perceived to be an emerging competitive threat. So for instance, Instagram in 2012 or WhatsApp in 2014. With Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg said that they wanted to neutralize a potential competitor. With WhatsApp, they paid a massive $19 billion, overpaying for this company, and was characterized as being terrified of it as a competitor. For other companies that refuse to be bought out, Facebook would degrade the quality and the functionality of the rivals' apps on Facebook, making it so that they couldn't thrive. And in some instances, Facebook would cut the competitor off Facebook altogether. This is an important action for the future of the internet. It is where we increasingly live our lives. And I want Facebook to thrive and succeed. But I want it to succeed because it is the best company and not because it's a monopoly engaged in illegal behavior. So that is why I brought this action today, and I look forward to taking any questions from anyone who's interested.
If you have a question now, you can ask it and use the raise hand feature so we can call on you and bring you in. In the meantime, Attorney General Stein, maybe you want to talk a little bit about what the suit is seeking and what you hope to accomplish.
Sure. The relief that we are asking the court is to block Facebook from engaging in any additional illegal anti-competitive behavior that blocks competition and hurts consumers. We want the states to be notified when Facebook is making a major acquisition, and we want the court to pursue whatever relief it deems appropriate to undo the damage. And that may involve divesting lines of business of Facebook or particular companies acquired by Facebook.
Emily from WECT.
With Facebook being such a large corporation, I mean, it's operating worldwide. How will this work in terms of, these states are suing, but it's not just an American company. How would that relief work if you were to get it?
Our focus as state attorneys general who enforce the law, and we're doing this in partnership with our federal partner, the Federal Trade Commission, is we are concerned about the American marketplace. That's where American antitrust laws pertain. And so that's what our focus is. I would imagine that if changes were made to benefit American consumers, that it would be likely that Facebook would apply those across the globe. But our concern are with the people of the United States, and my concern is with the people of North Carolina.
Travis Fain.
Yes, sir. There been any settlement talks? And regardless of whether there have been any settlement talks, how long do you foresee this taking, either to come to a settlement or to fruition through the court system? Are we talking years, I assume?
We have had many conversations with Facebook over the course of our investigation, and we will continue to have conversations. And to the extent that Facebook wants to resolve these issues in a constructive fashion, we are absolutely open to those conversations. If we do not believe that they're prepared to voluntarily provide the kind of relief we think is appropriate, then we will litigate this as long as it takes. Cases like this that are very complicated can take a long time. I hope that it doesn't, but I also recognize the reality of a matter of this magnitude.
Gary.
Josh, can you hear me?
I can. Thanks, Gary.
Hey, so, over the decades, we've had some significant antitrust lawsuits, AT&T, Microsoft. Does the changes that you're seeking with Facebook have the potential to be that kind of industry altering or shattering experience that maybe we had from AT&T and Microsoft?
It's possible. I mean, our hope is to restructure the social networking website marketplace in the United States. And right now, there's one player, and it is a place where people spend a lot of hours a day. Probably more hours a day have been spent on Facebook than people used Microsoft products or that they spent on the telephone back in the AT&T era. So I think it has the potential to be as transformative as those major cases of the past.
Thank you.
Anyone else has a question? Feel free to raise your hand. Will Michaels? Will Michaels?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Clearly, Facebook is a global social networking platform, but are there specific examples that you can point to of ways that this alleged monopoly has impacted North Carolinians specifically with those fake pages that you've been talking about, or are there specific examples that you can give of a direct impact to North Carolinians in particular?
Well, consumers pay Facebook with their data, not their dollars. And when they use the website, we've seen a degradation in the privacy protections that are afforded to consumers. There are increasing number of ads on people's feeds. There are there's been a proliferation of fake accounts. And so the quality of the service has gotten worse. But part of what we're wanting to free up is the opportunity for North Carolinians to benefit from other social networking sites that may have features and programming and services that my brain isn't big enough to conceptualize. That's what's so incredible about technological innovation and why we have to allow for a thriving and healthy marketplace. That's what antitrust laws are about. It's about ensuring that the marketplace works freely and fairly so that the best company can win. And in this instance, it's winning with people's participation. And that's what I want. I want there to be thriving competition. And if in that free market, Facebook continues to be number one and dominate, then so be it. So be it. I want them to win based on their talents, services, and product offerings, and not through their anti-competitive behavior.
Mackenzie?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So does this mean that Facebook would have to sell off Instagram or WhatsApp? What does it mean for the future of those two applications?
It could be that's the type of relief we want the court to entertain. We're at the very beginning. Obviously, if we just filed the lawsuit today, we have additional discovery to do. And so I don't want to forecast exactly what the right answer is in terms of the appropriate relief, but that is a possibility of the type of relief that the court may deem appropriate. A lot of people don't even know that Instagram is part of Facebook. A lot of people say, well, Facebook has a competition, it's Instagram. It may be more photo-based, but at least it's a social networking site. Well, Facebook, as we all know, bought Instagram, and it had been a potential competitor. Obviously, it no longer is.
Are there any other questions? Emily, do you have a follow-up?
Yes. As far as when Facebook has appeared in front of Congress in those hearings, a big concern has been misinformation, particularly through coronavirus elections. Does that play into this at all, or is that just part of that the quality that you were mentioning before?
It's the latter. It's the quality. There is a separate investigation into Facebook over its privacy protections and whether it has lived up to the promises and commitments it made to its users. But that is not what this litigation involves. Our litigation involves its anti-competitive acts that violate our national antitrust laws. It's all about making sure that the marketplace works right so that consumers win through competition and choice. And that's what I'm trying to achieve with this lawsuit.
Gary?
Gary, you're on mute if you're asking a question.
No, I had nothing else.
Oh, okay.
All right, well, thank you all for your time and for joining us today. Please feel free to follow up with me if you have any other additional questions.
Thanks so much, everybody.